Lance and Cherry walked through Ponyville, heading towards Sugar Cube Corner. A few of the market stalls had packed up and were leaving, while a few others were just making their last few sales. There were many different foods there, from apples, carrots, celery stalks and colourful flowers too. Looking at them made Lance's stomach twist with hunger. The weak grass they had was horrible at best. He and Cherry made their way through the market as quickly as possible, and then they saw it. If the market had been hard on them, the next sight was torture. Sugar Cube Corner was a house that looked like it was made out of sweets. Gingerbread walls, a chocolate roof, candy cane supports, and on the roof was what looked like a giant cupcake with 3 burning candles. Lance later would wonder how they lit them, but right now, all he could feel was his stomach groan in protest. This had to be hurting Cherry Blossom too. Lance cursed silently to himself.
I shouldn't have brought her here.
Lance couldn't help feeling bad, but it would only be for a short time. He just had to find a job.
I just hope they're hiring.
Lance and Cherry walked inside the sweet shop, and before even walking in they could smell them. The smell of freshly baked cupcakes attacked their nostrils, and oh my Celestia did they smell good. The rest of the sweets inside were mouth-watering. Cakes, all different kinds of cakes, big ones, small ones, chocolate cakes, carrot cakes. Never before had Lance felt so hungry. There was a giggle from behind the counter. Lance looked over and saw a pink pony with a large pink poofy mane.
Hey, if you keep drooling like that, we're all gonna need bootsies on our hoopsies!
The pink pony continued to giggle at the expression on Lance's face as he realised that his mouth was hanging open and was watering. Cherry Blossom looked up at her brother and laughed a little. Lance then turned back to the pink pony behind the counter, but she was gone.
Huh? Where'd she...
Lance's thought was lost as the pink pony appeared right in front of his sister, leaning forward on her forehooves with unnatural balance. Cherry backed off a step at the rapid appearance of the strange mare.
Hi, I'm Pinkie Pie. What's your name?
Pinkie Pie had a large smile on her face. She looked extremely happy to see 2 new customers in her store, especially a filly. Cherry struggled to find her voice after the shock.
My name's Cherry Blossom.
She didn't look at the pink earth pony while she said it. She just stared at her hooves as she backed off behind her brother. Lance looked up from his sister to Pinkie Pie, only to find her nose to nose with him.
What's your name? Huh?
Yikes. Can I get some personal space?
Lance took a step back.
My name's Lance Angelswift. It's a pleasure to meet you, Miss Pie.
Oh, please! Call me Pinkie! All my friends do!
Pinkie danced around back to the counter. She was really happy to make new friends apparently.
So, what can I get for you two? You just had a batch of cupcakes freshly baked!
She pulled out a tray full of cupcakes, each with pink icing and sprinkles with every colour of the rainbow. The heat was still visible coming off of each one.
So you want some, huh?
Pinkie was hardly giving Lance time to breathe, let alone talk. Each cupcake looked delicious. The hunger came back, and this time, it hurt.
Actually, Pinkie, we're not here to buy.
Pinkie's ears drooped slowly, and then instantly perked back up.
Okay.
The pink mare put the cupcakes away under the display counter again.
So does that mean you just came to visit little old me?
Pinkie had a huge playful smile on her face.
Well, what we're really here for is this.
Lance reached into his saddlebag and pulled out the letter for Mr. and Mrs. Cake, carrying it in his teeth as he placed it on the counter.
Are either of these ponies here today?
Pinkie's eyes lit up as she looked at the letter.
Hey! This is my party invitation. I sent them last month. They said they never got it, and I wasn't sure why. But now I know. You had it all this time, didn't you? How'd you get it? Why did it take so long for you to bring it here? Did you get lost? Did you crawl here? Did you ride on the back of a tortoise? Oh my gosh! That must have been so much fun! What was it like? Was it comfortable? Is it outside right now? Can all 3 of us ride it together? Or did you take a tortoise each?
Whoa, wait, what?
Pinkie's flurry of questions came one after the other. Lance couldn't get a word in edgewise. Pinkie's questions kept coming in fast until Cherry Blossom started laughing. Pinkie's questions stopped as she looked down at the little filly. A big smile was on her face.
But that's so silly.
Cherry Blossom kept laughing, and now that Pinkie had been silenced for just a moment, Lance told the pink mare about how they had just moved into Ponyville and about all the mail that had been incorrectly delivered over the years. Lance hadn't been paying close attention to Pinkie while he talked. If he had, he might have seen Pinkie's eyes grow wide as well as her smile. It was just after he finished talking about the pink envelopes that Pinky jumped high into the air and floated there for a second before shouting,
You just moved here?
Pinky landed on the ground and then ran behind the counter and grabbed something.
You know what this calls for?
Lance didn't have a clue what Pinky was talking about. Instantly, shock and horror gripped the ivory-coloured pony as Pinky pulled out a large blue cannon and pointed at him.
Pinky, what are you doing?
Party!
Pinky shouted and fired the cannon right at Lance. He only just managed to drop to the floor in time. The cannon didn't make as much of a boom as he had expected. Instead, it made a bang and a squeak noise as if a balloon had deflated. Lance looked up and saw confetti and streamers all over himself and Cherry. He turned to where the shot landed and saw a table with a cloth over it, party hats, confetti, balloons and streamers. They weren't there when they came in.
Did she just shoot that stuff out of the cannon?
I sure did!
Lance snapped his head back around to face her.
This is what I call a party cannon!
Did I say that out loud before?
Lance felt himself being picked up off the floor by Pinky.
We've just gotta have a welcome party for you! I mean, you can't move to Ponyville and not have a signature Pinkie Pie welcoming party! I mean, what would I do? I sure as hate can't let my newest friends not have a party!
Pinky started getting cakes and sweets out from under the counter. Lance stepped forward and stopped her.
Wait, I can't afford any of...
Pinky cut him off by placing a hoof to his muzzle.
Oh, silly! You're not paying for them! This is my party for you!
The pink mare took the tray of warm cupcakes over to the table. Lance again tried to step in front of her, but she just bounced around him.
But Pinky, I can't ask you to do all of this for us. It's all too soon.
Pinky then stopped mid-jump.
You're right.
The pink mare said, looking like she was thinking rationally about it. Lance breathed a sigh of relief.
I still have to invite every pony in Ponyville!
Lance's heart jumped.
Every pony?
Yuppers! Every pony!
Pinky's reply startled Lance for the second time, but before he could question her, she jumped out the door. At that moment, another two ponies walked in, a mare and a stallion.
Goodness, what's gotten into Pinky?
The mare had a light blue coat with 2 shades of pink in her curly mane and 2 large pink pearl earrings. The stallion had a yellow coat with orange ruffled hair under his white and orange hat, and a stripy bow tie of the same colours. He was pushing a pram into the store. They then both looked around and saw Lance and Cherry Blossom stood there in the middle of the store alone.
Oh my, are you two okay there? Pinky didn't leave without serving you, did she?
Lance had an inkling that he knew who these two were.
Mr. and Mrs. Cake?
Yes, dearie, that's us. I'm Cupcake, and this is my husband, Carrot Cake.
Mr. Cake gave a nod and a smile.
And how can we help you?
Hello, my name is Lance Angelswift, and this is my sister, Cherry Blossom.
Cherry had been lifting her head up to see into the pram from a distance, but at the sound of her name and all eyes looking at her, she squeaked down and back behind her brother.
I brought you a letter that was mistakenly delivered to my home, but apparently it's been there for months and it's a bit late now.
Lance showed the letter to Mrs. Cake. She looked at the letter and recognised it immediately.
That's one of Pinkie Pie's party invitations.
At this, Mrs. Cake looked around the store and saw the party favours all in one corner of the shop. Then she realised where Pinky must have gone.
Oh my, I think I know what's going on now. Tell me, dearies, did you just move to Ponyville?
Yes, we arrived just this morning. We moved here from Las Pegasus.
Mrs. Cake smiled as she saw Cherry Blossom trying to get another peek into the pram. Mrs. Cake came closer and leaned down to the little filly.
Do you want to see them, dearie?
Cherry shrunk down as she realised Mrs. Cake was speaking to her.
Come on, it's okay.
Mrs. Cake walked back over to the pram as the pink filly just stared after her. Lance nudged his little sister.
Go on then. Don't you want to see them?
Cherry smiled and then ran over to the pram, slowing down as she got there. Mr. Cake had pulled back the blanket covering the two foals just a little so that Cherry could get a better look. She could only just see into the pram by standing on her hind legs. Inside was the two foals, a tiny little filly and an equally tiny little colt. Twin foals, but they both had a difference that was very clear. The filly was a unicorn and the colt was a Pegasus. Cherry Blossom paid this no mind. The foals were so adorable she just wanted to look at them. Lance came over and was about to ask how two earth ponies could have a unicorn and a Pegasus for foals, but at that moment the door swung open. Pinkie Pie came storming in and shouting,
Woohoo! It's time to party!
Lance instantly looked down at the foals worriedly, expecting them to wake up and start crying at the loud noise. Instead, they just woke up, yawning and beginning to make a fuss, reaching up out of the pram. Lance looked at Mrs. Cake. She was already looking back at him. She reached out a hoof and gave Lance a reassuring pat on the shoulder.
Oh, don't worry, dearie. Pinky's been with our foals since the day they were born. They enjoy her wacky antics.
These foals are only a few months old. I don't think I could get used to Pinky's wacky antics in a lifetime.
Pinky let a few more of the ponies into the cake shop. Lance recognised a few of them as the ponies running the stalls at the market.
Wait, did she just invite a group of random ponies to a party she just decided to throw less than 5 minutes ago?
Come on, every pony! The party's this way!
Pinky shouted down the street.
Yep, she did.
Cherry Blossom was still with the little foals, ignoring the noise and the swarm of ponies now entering the shop. The tiny little filly reached out and Cherry awkwardly reached into the pram, touching hooves with her.
Hello, what's your name?
Mr. Cake leaned in close to Cherry Blossom.
This little unicorn is called Pumpkin Cake, and this little Pegasus is Pound Cake.
Mr. Cake smiled at Cherry. She returned his smile and then looked back at the little foals.
Hello, Pumpkin Cake. Hello, Pound Cake. My name is Cherry Blossom.
Cherry was still touching hooves with Pumpkin Cake. The little filly was using both of her forelegs to try and, by the looks of it, pull Cherry Blossom's hoof closer to herself and try and chew on it. But the pink filly was so short that she couldn't get any closer. Pinky began playing some music, shouting for every pony to shake their groove thing. Lance looked outside and noticed that a larger number of ponies were making their way here.
How did Pinky contact all those ponies?
Suddenly, there was a large tray of cupcakes under Lance's nose.
Come on, Lancey, try one! They're really good!
Lancey?
Pinky was holding a tray full of pink frosted cupcakes under Lance's muzzle. They smelled delicious, and he could still feel the warmth. His mind protested against his stomach.
Pinky, I can't accept all this without offering you something in return.
Oh, don't be a silly Billy! I don't know what it's like where you come from, but around here, friends share! So...
Pinky took one of the cupcakes and forced it into Lance's mouth.
May you enjoy yourself and leave everything to me! Your Auntie Pinkie Pie has it all taken care of!
Lance had never tasted anything so good. The cupcake was delicious and Lance didn't dare swallow. He wanted to savour every chew. Finally he did swallow and it filled a hole in his stomach, but that didn't stop him from wanting another one. Or two. Or five. Lance turned to see Pinky had given one of the cupcakes to Cherry as well. Lance then remembered the other letter he had.
Mrs. Cake, I have another letter to deliver.
The ivory pony opened up his saddlebag.
Do you know this pony?
Lance pulled out the letter to Miss Cheerilee and showed it to Mrs. Cake.
Oh, I know her. In fact, I think she's right here.
Mrs. Cake pointed towards the table where a punch bowl had been set up. There was a mare earth pony with a mulberry coat and 2 tones of pink in her mane. Lance thanked Mrs. Cake and headed over to where the school teacher was getting herself a drink.
Excuse me, Miss Cheerilee?
The mulberry pony placed her glass down.
Yes? Oh, hello. You must be Lance Angelsmith?
Lance Angelswift, yes. How did you know my name?
Oh, Pinkie Pie was running through the streets telling every pony about a welcome party for 2 ponies who just moved to Ponyville. I'm guessing the young filly over with the foals is your sister? Cherry Blossom, right?
Lance looked over to where Cherry Blossom was playing with the foals in their pram, while Mr. Cake watched on, laughing as they played.
Yeah, that's her.
Lance turned back to Cheerilee.
I have something here for you.
The stallion drew a pink envelope from his saddlebag and placed it on the table for Cheerilee.
This letter was mistakenly delivered to my house a few months ago.
Lance then explained about the large pile of letters that had built up over the years.
Oh, I see. Well, I must thank you for bringing me this. It's no good now, but still, the fact you were willing to track me down to bring me this means a lot. We should really learn not to trust the male ponies here. It's just one catastrophe after another.
Miss Cheerilee, there's something I wanted to ask you. It's about my sister. She was supposed to join school a few months ago, but...
Lance didn't want to go into any details about his father. If possible, he'd like to avoid it completely.
There was a complication. But, well, you're a teacher at the school, right? I mean, the letter was addressed for there.
Oh, well, yes, I am. And I think I know where you're going with this. And of course, we would love to have little Cherry Blossom join us at our school.
Lance had a huge smile on his face. That was thankfully easier than he thought.
Thank you so much, Miss Cherry.
Lance looked at his sister again. Cherry Blossom and the twins were running in circles, laughing and having lots of fun.
I'm really glad we came here.